If you keep blaming yourself for not being consistent, if you beat yourself up every time you lose momentum, and if you always wonder why other people seem to have this endless drive while you're over there starting and stopping, I need you to understand something very important. You don't have a motivation problem. You have a clarity problem. And once you realize that, once you stop chasing the temporary energy and you start building permanent direction, everything changes. So let me show you the difference because this might actually be the shift that finally makes things click for you. Now, let me tell you what nobody really wants to admit. We've been sold this idea that if you watch the right video, if you read the right book, if you listen to the right speech, you'll finally feel motivated enough to do the work. And for a moment, it might actually work. You'll feel very fired up, you make plans, and then you tell yourself, this is it. But maybe by Thursday, Friday, Wednesday, whatever day of the week it is, it's gone. The fire fades, the energy crashes, and then you're back to where you started, and then you're wondering what the hell went wrong. Sorry for cursing. But then here's the truth. Nothing is wrong with you. I need you to understand this. Nothing is wrong with you. Motivation is temporary, and I feel like if you don't understand this at this point, you've missed the entire point of starting something. It is emotional fuel. Yes, it comes and goes like weather. But then you have to build a life that doesn't really depend on motivation, because if you build a life on motivation, any more than you can build a house on feelings, it's going to crash. So you can't do that. But what exactly can you then do? You need to actually look at it from this particular angle, which is that what you actually need right now is clarity. And clarity isn't fun. Clarity isn't sexy. It doesn't give you goosebumps. It doesn't make you want to run through a wall, you know? But one thing clarity does, time and time again, is that it keeps you moving when motivation runs out. I always say it like clarity is like what makes the work feel inevitable instead of impossible. And I'm going to share a couple of stories with you. But first, let's think about this together. Have you ever noticed how easy consistency feels or becomes when you finally know what you want? When the goal isn't vague anymore, you know, when you're not second guessing yourself every other day. Yes, I'm talking to you. Have you ever thought about it? Have you ever wondered why that is the case? The truth is, that is not motivation. That's clarity doing its job. And the truth is that most people out there grinding with no real sense of direction, they're working really hard. But hard work is not clarity. It doesn't bring clarity in a way. It's just an expensive motion. It's exhausting. It's basically like exhausting yourself running in circles. And that can be really, really hard to deal with. And the worst part is that you blame yourself. You think you're lazy. You think you lack discipline. But really, you're just trying to be consistent towards a destination you haven't fully defined. So what's the solution here? How are you supposed to stay motivated when you don't even know if you're heading into the right direction? I told you I was going to paint you a picture, so let me do that right away. Motivation is hype. Clarity is direction. It's as simple as that. And there are many books you can read to give you more context about this, but the first one I think you should really take seriously is understanding the difference between these two. And I think I've helped you do that. But if you still don't understand it, listen to this. Motivation says something like, let's do this. Clarity says, here's why we're doing this, and here's how. The truth is, motivation gets you started, but clarity keeps you going. You need both. Don't get me wrong, you need both. Motivation is loud, clarity is quiet. And when you're driven by motivation alone, you're always chasing the next big hit, the next big thing, the next inspiring quote, the next breakthrough moment. You become dependent on external energy that keeps you moving. And when that energy dips, which it will, it really will, at that point, everything stops. And if you listen to when I talk to you about not being a slave to low exposure, escaping that prison of low exposure, you understand this really well. So that's what happens when you depend solely on motivation. But when you anchor on clarity, you don't need the hype. You already know where you're going, so you know what matters. You know what not to do, which is very, very important. You understand that I'm not supposed to be working on this kind of things. And then I don't know how to put it. You know what deserves your time and what doesn't. Because the truth is, clarity turns decision making into a filter, not a crisis. And the way I have it sort of broken down, I have a very interesting example to share with you. So there was a time I had two friends or two people I was mentoring who were about to build a business. And I'll call the first person person A and call the other person person B. Now, person A was motivated. He would watch videos, he gets excited, and he starts 3 different projects in 3 months and didn't finish any of them. Why? Because he was chasing feelings, not outcomes. He just wanted that spark, and the moment he got the spark, he moved on to the next thing. But then person B had clarity. He knew exactly what the problem he was solving is, who he was serving, and what success looks like for him. He didn't need to feel inspired every day. He just made sure that he was showing up and executing based on the plan he had and the fact that his path was clear. They both had the same goal, build a business. But they had different foundations, completely different results. One of them currently has about 300 and something K followers on Instagram. And I that was the mentor or the guide, I'm still probably stuck in like 150 or something. I can't remember last time I checked, but maybe 160 something. The other person, yeah, he has like 70K, but he barely makes any sale. The other guy with 300K, about 4 months ago, he sent me one of his biggest months he ever did. And he did like, I think 8K in a month. And I'm like, I'm proud of that. The other person does like 1K, 2K, which isn't bad. But I feel like if he focused more on understanding, I taught him everything. I gave them the blueprint and they both chose to execute it the way they felt. And that's when I realized that I think I need to switch up my strategy to not really give you just blueprints, but to show you the difference, which is why I'm talking to you about this. But then one thing also stands very sure, and is that this applies to everything: your career, your creative work, your relationship, your health. If you don't have clarity about what you actually want and why you want it, you'll always be at the mercy of how you feel in the moment. And feelings, they lie. Feelings tell you to quit when things are not really going your way or when you don't have a breakthrough. Feelings make you think you're off track when you're actually right on schedule, even though the timeline seems stretched. But the other side, clarity would never derail you. It will keep you grounded when feelings try to derail you. You are clear, you are sure that this is where I'm going to. When I first moved to the UK, I had this vision to start a full blown coaching service for founders and high impact individuals and creatives. And I kept overthinking, I would build a website, it looks nice. I'll share it with somebody, they'll say, this is fire. And then, I would announce that something happening on Instagram, and people would feel like, okay, yeah, this is cool. But then I would run one cohort, 3 weeks into it, everything would just die down. The energy would just die. And I'm like, what is really going on? And I realized that I was focusing too much on how I felt about that service or that product at the time. And I wasn't really making any progress. So I switched it up. What I then did was I created a goal. What do I really want to help people achieve? I want them to be able to amplify their influence and scale their impact. Brilliant. Now, how do I condense this? How do I bring it down? How do I walk backwards? And I created a plan because I had clarity about what the result is or what the goal is. And that made things a lot easier. Now, a lot more things that I can just tell you now is there was a season, which I just mentioned, where everything just didn't work right. I was just, all of these teaching, coaching things were just good on paper. It didn't make any sense. And as I kept moving, as I kept trying, it was just like hit and miss. But then one day, I remember my wife looking at me one day and saying, you're doing a lot, but are you really getting anywhere? And that really hit me hard because she was right. I was moving, but I wasn't progressing. I was busy, but I wasn't building anything sustainable. I had motivation. I was showing up, but I had no clarity on what I wanted or what I was showing up for. So I stopped. I basically stopped. I took a step back and I asked myself these 3 questions that changed everything for me. What do I actually enjoy doing when it comes to teaching and delivering things that would help people change? What serves other people in a meaningful way? And then what compounds over time? Those 3 questions gave me clarity. They helped me to see which projects to pour all of my energy into and which ones to let go. And then they helped me understand that what success actually meant for me, not what it looks like on Instagram, but what it felt like in my real life. And once I had that clarity, I didn't need motivation anymore. I didn't need the hype. I just knew what mattered. And that made consistency very, very easy. Now, as we usually do, a couple of things to take away from what I'm sharing with you right now. This isn't just theory, by the way, because this is something you can apply right now and start to get result the next week. So if you're feeling stuck, unmotivated, or unclear about where you're going, I want you to do a simple mental audit. Grab your notebook right now, like right now, as we're sitting down right here. Grab your notebook. Or open the notepad on your phone, whatever works, and answer those 3 questions honestly. Question 1 is, what do I actually enjoy doing? Not what looks cool, not what other people are doing. What genuinely lights you up? What could you do for hours and lose track of time? Start there. Because if you build a life around things you don't enjoy, no amount of motivation will sustain you. Very important. Then question 2, what serves others in a meaningful way? And this is where your purpose actually lies, the purpose of what you're doing. You don't just have to save the world. No, that's not the goal, not saving the world. But you need to create value. What problem can you solve? What transformation can you offer? What gap can you fill? Like when your work serves others, You should give them something bigger than yourself or something that aims towards. And that's powerful because once you can figure that out, you're great. And the last question, what compounds over time? This is this is that filter that you're able to use to cut off all of these unnecessary things. Some things give you quick wins, but don't really build anything lasting. Other things are slow, but they compound. Think about skills, relationships, systems, content, product. Ask yourself, is what I'm doing today going to matter a year from now? 5 years from now? If not, please reconsider. And these 3 questions will help you create a framework. They help you separate what is worth your time from what is just noise. They help you build clarity, not just chasing motivation. And here's I think about the last thing I'll tell you before I wrap up. It is that once you have clarity, you don't need to push so hard. You don't need to force yourself because you're not fighting against confusion anymore. You're aligned, you're focused, you're moving with intention, and intention in any form beats intensity every single time. Quote me on that. Intention beats intensity every single time. Get your head in the game. Like, really understand what I'm telling you. But I'll leave you with this. You're not behind. I always say this. You're not broken. You're not lacking some magical traits that other people have. You're just trying to run a race without knowing where the finish line is, and that's exhausting. Of course, you feel stuck. Of course, you lose steam. But the moment you get clear, the moment you define what you're actually building and why it matters, everything shifts. I've said this over and over and over again. And if indeed you've been listening to me for the past 6 months, your life should have changed. Your work should have taken a very high road right now. So you need to stop needing motivation to carry you. You need to stop waiting to feel ready. You need to stop second guessing every decision. You just need to move with clarity, with confidence, and with direction. I think I'll look you in the eyes when I say this one. Stop blaming yourself for not being motivated enough. Stop consuming endless content, hoping that it will finally make you feel ready. Instead of all of these things, get clear, do the work of defining your direction, answer those hard questions I just gave you, build a foundation that doesn't depend on how you feel on any particular day, maybe a Tuesday or Wednesday. You don't need to push too hard. You just need to aim clearer, like aim very clear, very, very clear. And once you do that, I promise you, once you do that, I promise you that you will see everything you need falling into place because you've stopped pointing in too many directions and you're just fixed on one goal. So pick one place, pick one goal, pick one direction, get clear on that, and watch how things would quickly move along for you. Now, before I end this, one thing I wanted to remind you of is all of these things I share with you, you can listen to them in a more digestible form or format. And there's a podcast where all of these things have been converted into audio. And if you constantly listen to this, I can assure you that with time, you would understand more about these things. But I'll leave you with this, which I already said before. There is a framework if you've been looking for a way to monetize your creativity or start to earn from your passions. It's called Creator Cash Flow Kit. It's linked in the description. And if you want to go through it, please feel free to. If you have more questions, ask me. But I can guarantee you that if you follow all these things I've been teaching you the past couple of weeks, you probably don't even need the product that I just talked about. But if you think it would help you accelerate things, then go ahead and get it. And as usual, I'm so glad I'm able to speak to you again today. And I look forward to speaking to you very soon. Have a great day.